Hello everyone! This video is brought to you by someone who persistently requested that I watch and review this movie. Today's film is The Changeling, a 1979 film released in 1980, directed by Peter Madoc. It stars George C. Scott as John Russell, a composer who is devastated after witnessing the deaths of his wife and daughter in a car accident. With the idea that a change of scene will help him cope, he moves to Seattle and takes up residence in a remote historical mansion that has not been lived in for many years. But though John seeks peace and quiet, it's not long before strange things start to happen in the house, making him suspect that it is either trying to frighten him away or tell him something about its past. I should start out by saying that ghost stories aren't really my horror subgenre of choice. I guess I'm more of a monsters and murderers kind of girl, so I wasn't sure how I'd feel about this one, but I was pleasantly surprised. The Changeling is just packed with atmosphere, and it excels in something that a lot of other horror movies, especially later ones, haven't managed so well, and that is conveying much with very little. This is subtle horror. There's nothing graphic or in your face, no blood, no gore, no jump scares, no sexual content either. It masters your emotions through long, drawn-out suspense and frightening but simple effects. A lot of the credit for that goes to the sound department, who did a great job making the strange noises that echo through this house as creepy as possible. One thing I enjoyed most was the music, composed by Rick Wilkins and Howard Blake. It's a rich, beautiful score with some lovely, sad, spooky piano melodies. Some of the music is diegetic, meaning it's played within the movie, which is a nice touch. I've learned since that original CDs of the film's soundtrack are rare, as only 1,000 copies were released. It seems kind of crazy to me, considering what a good score it is. The other thing I loved was the set design, and I'm primarily talking about the mansion, which just screams haunted. You know there's something not right about it as soon as the characters start driving down the long, debris-strewn driveway and pull up to the imposing facade. But where the art department and set decorator really outdid themselves is on the interior. The rooms inside are spacious and populated with interesting period pieces, with the architectural details and heavy trim associated with Victorian mansions. It's dark, there are cobwebs threatening to take over, the stairs seem to go on forever. This would be a really cool place to live. If only it wasn't haunted. George C. Scott was really good in this, and I think I liked him better here than I have in anything else I've seen him in so far. I've admitted before that I often have a hard time warming up to Scott, whose characters are usually on the choleric and unpredictable side, with a trace of General Patton always present, even when he's playing Rochester or Scrooge. That's not the case here, however. This is a more mellow Scott than I've ever seen. He looks very casual and approachable, dressed in soft sweaters and a classic professor's wardrobe. His early bereavement under such tragic circumstances makes him a vulnerable and sympathetic figure, yet there's also something about him that keeps things grounded as what's going on in the house gets more bizarre. His co-star in this is Trish Vandeveer. Something that I learned after seeing the movie was that Trish Vandeveer and George C. Scott were actually married from 1972 until the time of his death in 1999. They co-starred in several films together besides this one, including the '76 version of Beauty and the Beast, which I've seen. Good thing I did some background research before filming this video. What's funny is that while watching The Changeling, I actually appreciated that the story opted out of going down the romantic subplot road. I felt like, there's time for that later, stick with the ghost in the creepy mansion, and that's what the writers did. Scott and Vandeveer carry the bulk of the movie, along with classic Hollywood veteran Melvyn Douglas. I confess I didn't recognize Melvyn Douglas at first. All the movies I've seen him in came out in the 30s and 40s, with the closest to this one being Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, which came out in 1948. Melvyn Douglas aged a lot in 32 years. Aside from these three, most of the characters appear in only 1 or 2 scenes, which is interesting. The focus is much more on the protagonist alone in the spooky house. I did have a little trouble about halfway through when there's suddenly a lot of new information given in a short space of time. Not quite an exposition overload, but close. My mom and I had to play catch-up for a bit trying to keep this new info straight, and there was one individual brought up who I thought was more relevant than she turned out to be, so that was a little confusing. I do also want to mention that there is a seance scene. For me, things that have seances and mediums are like, nope, not going down that road. So that's a heads up for anyone watching this review who shares that sentiment. That said, as cinematic seances go, and I can't say I've seen a whole lot, but comparatively speaking, this one's pretty tame, just as the movie on the whole is on the tamer side. But I don't want to downplay its spookiness and its tension. It is a slow but effective horror movie. It gave me goosebumps with its eerie sounds and slamming doors, and anyone who's seen it will know what I mean when I say I never knew an antique wheelchair could be so threatening. I want to thank my friend for patiently nudging me into watching this over the course of several months, even though it's not my usual fare. I hope you all enjoyed this review and stay tuned for more coming soon. Thanks for watching!